Sure. Here is section 1 of the script with minimum 760 words, focused, emotionally layered, and aligned with the tone and structure you approved. There are some nights you remember for joy, graduations, weddings, births. Others, for devastation. But the night my son became someone else, I felt the kind of heartbreak I never thought possible. It started subtly. Like a draft in a room you thought was sealed shut. Jake had come home from college for the summer. He'd always been the pride of our family, polite, driven, decent. He even brought home his girlfriend, Celia. She was soft-spoken, polite, and clearly smitten with him. I liked her immediately. Or maybe I just wanted to. Daniel, my husband, was quieter than usual. But then again, he often was. Our marriage had settled into something like functional silence, dinners without much talk, routine without romance. We coexisted peacefully, if not passionately. I figured that was normal after 23 years, but Jake started changing. He used to sit with me on the back porch at night, talking about life. Now, he stayed in his room or left without saying where he was going. I chalked it up to stress. Maybe college had changed him. Maybe he just needed space. But one night, I got up to get a glass of water and saw him standing outside under the porch light, whispering into his phone. His voice was sharp, hushed. I caught just a few words. We can't let them find out. The next morning, I asked him about it. He brushed me off. Just something for school, he said. But there was no school this summer. That lie sat like a weight in my stomach. Celia didn't help my confusion. She was sweet, but something was off. She avoided eye contact with me, seemed uncomfortable when Daniel walked into the room. I once caught her flinch when he put a hand on her shoulder, just in passing. At the time, I told myself it was nothing. I was imagining things. Overthinking. Still, I started paying attention. Watching more closely, Daniel seemed different around her. Lighter. He smiled more when she was near, spoke more. He'd ask her odd, personal questions about her favorite books, what kind of music she liked. Not inappropriate, just more interested than I expected. And Jake? He noticed none of it. Or pretended not to. I confided in my best friend Carmen. She listened quietly, then asked a question I hadn't even thought to consider. Are you sure this is just about Jake? That question rattled around my brain like a marble in a glass jar. I started replaying moments, flashes of interaction that, at the time, meant nothing. The way Daniel would stand close to Celia when he thought no one was looking. The way she sometimes left the room suddenly when Jake wasn't around. One afternoon, I was folding laundry and Daniel's phone buzzed. I never check his messages, never felt the need to. But this time, something in me cracked. The message preview read, "Last night was risky. We can't keep this up." My hands froze. My chest tightened. My mind screamed, but I did nothing. I put the phone down. Told myself it could be anyone. Could be about anything. But I knew better. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake next to a man I had shared a bed with for 2 decades, and I felt like I didn't know him at all. His breathing was slow and even, like he didn't have a single secret in the world. Meanwhile, I felt like I was unraveling thread by thread. The next few days blurred together. I watched them all, Jake, Daniel, Celia, as if through a pane of glass. Detached, observing. Celia dropped a glass one afternoon and broke down crying over it. Real, sobbing tears. Over a glass. Jake tried to comfort her, but she pulled away. Said she was tired. Said she needed air. Carmen came by again and looked me dead in the eyes. "You're not crazy," she said. "Something's wrong in that house. And you already know it." But knowing and admitting are different things. I wasn't ready to admit it yet. So I watched and waited, until the day I caught Celia staring at Daniel while he read in the living room. She didn't blink. Didn't even look away when I entered the room. Just stood up quietly and left. I was done pretending. Something had happened. Something was still happening. I just hadn't uncovered it yet. And deep down, I prayed I was wrong, because if I wasn't, it wouldn't just break my marriage. It would break my son. Of course. Here's section 2 of the script, with minimum 760 words, continuing directly from section 1, tight, direct, and emotionally grounded. I waited until the house was empty. I needed answers, not theories. Daniel had gone to the hardware store. Jake had driven off without a word. Celia had gone with him, though she seemed reluctant. The silence left behind was dense, heavy. I walked straight into Daniel's study. I'd never snooped through his things before. But lines had already been crossed. I was just trying to find where I in the bottom drawer of his desk. I found a small envelope. Inside were photos. At first glance, harmless, family trips, birthdays. But tucked between them, folded and worn, was a note written in Celia's handwriting. I recognized the curves of her letters. You make me feel like someone sees me. I hate lying, but I don't want to stop. Not yet. My hands shook. My throat dried. The rest of the note was vague, but the tone wasn't. I dropped it like it burned. There it was. Not imagination. Not insecurity. Truth. When Daniel returned, I was waiting. No pretense. No warm-up. I held up the note. His face didn't even flinch. I was going to end it, he said flatly. I stared. With her? Jake's girlfriend? He nodded once, barely. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. That sentence hit harder than the truth itself. Nothing? It meant nothing? Destroying your son's trust. Your wife's life. That meant nothing. Tell me how long, I asked. A few months, he said. Before or after you met her? He hesitated. After. But not long after. And Jake? He doesn't know. I couldn't breathe. The room felt warped, like reality was bending around something I couldn't bear to look at. The man I married, the father of my child, had slept with our son's girlfriend, and had the nerve to stand there like it was a bad decision on a grocery list. Before I could say another word, the front door slammed. Jake was home. I met him in the hallway, my voice shaking. We need to talk. Daniel followed us into the kitchen. I didn't know how to say it. I couldn't soften it. It's about Celia, I said. Jake frowned. What? What about her? Daniel stepped forward. Son, let me. Don't, I said, turning to Jake. She's been sleeping with your father. There's no preparing for the way someone breaks. Jake didn't say a word. His mouth opened slightly, as if air had been knocked out of him. He blinked. Once. Twice. Then he laughed. Not joyfully, empty, guttural. No. No, that's not. It's true, Daniel said quietly. Jake looked at him, really looked. Then at me. Then at nothing. He flipped the kitchen chair backward, sent it crashing. He grabbed a glass from the counter and hurled it at the wall. Shards flew. I didn't flinch. Daniel stood frozen. Jake's voice cracked when he finally spoke. You're my father. Daniel tried to step toward him. Jake backed away. You looked me in the eye every day and pretended nothing was wrong. Jake, no. Don't say my name. Don't speak to me. You don't get to speak to me. He stormed out before I could stop him. I followed him to the driveway, but he drove off before I reached the door. 2 days. That's how long he was gone. 2 days of silence. No calls. No texts. I didn't sleep. I barely ate. Daniel stayed in the guest room. Not that I asked him to. He just knew Celia didn't come back either. I didn't care where she went. I didn't ask. I couldn't bear the thought of her. Her face. Her voice. Her hand on my son's shoulder. On the morning of the third day, I sat at the kitchen table staring at a cold cup of coffee when Jake walked in. No emotion. Just exhaustion. He looked like someone who had aged years and hours. I stood. He held up a hand. "Don't," he said. "I'm sorry," I whispered. He looked at me, really looked. "You didn't stop it." "I didn't know." "But you felt it." I couldn't deny that. He went upstairs without another word. Packed a single bag. When he came back down, I asked him where he was going. He didn't answer. I told him I loved him. That I would always be here. He didn't respond. Just walked out the door. The same boy I raised, but with eyes that looked like someone else's. I sat alone in that silence, thinking of everything I could have done differently. Everything I had missed. Everything I'd let slip past in the name of peace. Carmen came by later that afternoon. She held me while I cried. "This is not your fault," she said, "but guilt doesn't ask for logic. It just moves in and stays."
Of course. Here's section 3 of the script, with minimum 760 words, tightly written with emotional clarity, a twist of finality, and no repetition. Jake came back the next night, but he wasn't the same. He walked through the door with no expression, no anger, no questions. Just silence. I asked where he'd been. He said, "Nowhere that matters." He didn't look at me when he spoke. He barely looked at anything at all. He went straight to his room, shut the door, and didn't come out for hours. When he finally did, he started packing. Calmly. Slowly. He folded every shirt with care. I watched from the hallway. My heart pounded, but I didn't speak. When he zipped his bag, I finally whispered, "You don't have to leave." "I do," he said. "You don't," I repeated, softer. He turned and looked at me. There was no anger in his face anymore, just something worse. Distance. I can't unsee it. I can't unknow it. And I can't pretend you didn't let it happen. That cut deeper than I expected. I wanted to defend myself. To tell him I didn't know, that I would have stopped it if I had. But he wasn't asking for excuses. He was explaining his exit. I asked him where he was going. He said, "Anywhere that isn't here." Daniel came out of the guest room as Jake walked toward the door. He tried to speak, but Jake didn't stop walking. "You're dead to me," he said flatly. That's all I have left to say. The door closed behind him like a period. No slammed door, no screaming, no final moment of reconciliation. Just an ending. After he left, I stayed in that hallway for hours. Every part of me wanted to chase after him. But I knew he didn't want to be chased. He wanted distance, and I'd already taken too much from him by not seeing what I should have seen. Daniel came into the kitchen later, sat down across from me like nothing had changed. His face was blank, but his eyes were restless. I could see the regret now, but it was too late for that. "I lost my son," he said. I didn't respond. I should have stopped. I didn't think it would go that far. I finally looked up. "It didn't just go that far, Daniel. You destroyed him. And you destroyed us." He nodded slowly. "Do you want me to leave?" "I don't want anything from you," I said. He left the next morning without a fight. Took only a few bags and left no note. I didn't ask where he was going. I didn't care. Celia disappeared shortly after. Jake never spoke her name again. I don't know where she went. I didn't try to find out. I couldn't stand the thought of her existing anywhere near our lives. She didn't just break a heart, she helped shatter a family. Weeks passed. Then months. I sent Jake messages. I didn't expect replies. I just wanted him to know I still thought of him every day. Sometimes, I wrote things I couldn't say out loud. That I missed him. That I hoped he was okay. That I was sorry, not just for what happened, but for every moment before when I failed to see what was in front of me. He never replied to the texts. Then, one afternoon, I got a letter. No return address. Just my name written in neat block letters. Inside, a single page. I'm alive. I'm somewhere cold. I'm trying to be someone better than the version you both left me with. Maybe someday I'll come back. Maybe someday I'll forgive one of you. But not today. He didn't sign it. He didn't need to. I read that letter every day for a week. Memorized the lines. Then I put it in the drawer by my bed, next to an old photo of him as a child, smiling, innocent, whole. The house feels different now. Empty in a way that doesn't come from silence but from absence. Daniel is gone. Jake is gone. And I remain in the shell of what used to be a life. I see parents laughing with their sons at the store, and I feel a sharp sting behind my ribs. I hear boys playing music in their cars and wonder if Jake ever hums along to anything anymore. I wonder if he still laughs. I wonder if he'll ever look at me again without seeing betrayal. Sometimes,